Hello, and welcome to the Godly Playroom at First United Church in Wetaskiwin, Alberta. My name is Ruth Lomax, and I am so pleased to see you today. I wonder what else you've been up to already. If you're watching this first thing in the morning, maybe you're just getting up and you're a little bit sleepy still. Or maybe you're watching it later in the day after you've been busy doing other things and you're just ready to settle down for a while. However you come to this time, I hope you come close to the holy when you spend time with us. So you might like to think what you need to do to be ready. You might want to get a candle or some art materials, something to draw or color or paint. Today, I'm going to be folding some paper. So if you want to get a piece of paper, just a regular 8.5 by 11 regular piece of letter size paper, we can do that. You could probably do it with almost any size of paper, but it's easier a little bit bigger. You might also want to have something ready for feast. And it doesn't have to be a big meal. Just enough to share a meal together. Something to eat, maybe a little something to drink. Sometimes the feast is what happens before we actually eat anything. We have a feast for our spirit. But even before all of those things, we pause on the threshold to take a deep breath, to acknowledge one another and the gift from God that we are, and the gift to one another that we can be. I wonder what you need to be ready today. Let's take another deep breath together. Are you ready? You can pause the video at any time if you need to, but whenever you're ready, come on into the room and let's get settled to hear a story. Welcome to the circle. I wonder what you found to get ready, or maybe you had something you needed to set down. I wonder who else is in the circle with you. Sometimes it's good to have other people with whom to share these stories and our wondering. And sometimes the wondering goes on long after we've shared the stories. That's a good thing. So maybe take another deep breath. We are still in the time of the color purple, that season of Lent. And you will find the story of St. Patrick. Did I say what the story was going to be? There we go. You'll find him with the other saints over on the saint shelf. And if you don't find the story materials there, you'll at least find the booklet that tells the story of St. Patrick. Sometimes our saints get out of the building. That's a good thing too. I have my candle ready. I wonder if you have one close by. Perhaps a battery or a flame type, depending on your own comfort. We remember that once there was someone who said such amazing things and did such wonderful things that people began to follow him. And the more they followed him, the more they wondered who he was. And so one time they just had to ask, "Who are you?" And one time when they asked him that question, he said, "I am the light of the world." And that light shines in the shadows and grows whenever it is shared. Our light is getting very short, but it still grows. And when we get to that mystery of Easter, I think we might see more light. But I'm going to put this light back on the shelf and move the camera a little closer so you can see the story better. You go ahead and do whatever you might need to do to get ready. Pause the video if you need to, and come on back whenever you're ready. So this is the story of St. Patrick. We remember Patrick in the time of the color purple, that season of Lent. But why do we remember Patrick? Patrick was probably born on that northwest coast of England. And one day when he was a young boy, he heard that noise that nobody else wanted to hear. It was the sound of boats crunching across the gravel as they were pulled up onto the shore. Some of the Irish sailors had come to steal children. And they took Patrick and some others across the Irish Sea. When they got to the other side, they sold Patrick as a slave. The man who bought Patrick sent him to become a shepherd. He sent him out into the wilderness to look after the sheep with only a few dogs to help him. Patrick took very good care of the sheep. He was a good shepherd. He learned to love the dogs and to listen to them, and they began to listen and understand him. They worked very well together. Patrick must have prayed 100 times a day that they would all be safe. But one day, he told the dogs to take good care of the sheep, and he walked away. He had to travel by night so he wouldn't be caught. And after many nights, he could begin to smell some of that sea air. And one morning, he heard the sounds of waves crashing on the shoreline. He crept to the edge of the cliff and he looked over. And he could see some sailors trying to load a boat to go to England. They were trying to load some of the Irish dogs to take them back to sell. But the dogs were tall and fierce, and their coats were black and brown and coarse-haired, and the dogs would not get on the ship. Patrick walked down the hillside, right into the midst of the dogs, and he sat down. And he began to talk with them. And they listened. And when Patrick got up and walked onto the ship, the dogs followed him. The sailors decided Patrick could come with them. When they got back to England, Patrick decided he wanted to become a priest, so he went back to school. The other children laughed at him and they teased him. He was so much bigger and older than they were. But Patrick didn't care. He wanted to learn to read and write. When Patrick became a priest, one night he had a dream. He dreamt that God was speaking to him. And in his dream he heard the words, "Come back, we are waiting for you." And he knew it was a message from the Irish people. And so he went. And Patrick became the first bishop of Ireland, which is another kind of shepherd. But it wasn't always easy. Some of the people of Ireland did not like Christians at all, and they tried to hurt and even kill Patrick, but he didn't care. Patrick loved being a priest, and he loved telling people about the love of God. He taught like this: One day someone asked him about the Holy Trinity and how there could be three gods in one God. And Patrick just smiled. And he bent over and he picked up a shamrock. And there was a twinkle in his eye when he said, "You see, three in one and one in three." Even when Patrick was a very old man, he continued to worry about the people of Ireland. And one day he climbed a hill and he prayed for them and for the future of their country. And you can still climb that hill and say a prayer if you visit Ireland today. We remember Patrick because he traveled for God. I wonder what part of Patrick's story you liked best. I wonder what part of Patrick's story is most important. I wonder if there's any part of this story we could leave out and still have all the story that we need. I wonder where you are in this story. Or what part of this story is most like you, or especially for you today. You can pause the video if you'd like to do some more wondering. But before you do, I'm going to show you the booklet so that if you're in the Godly Playroom, you can learn more about Patrick's story. There is the story here, the shamrock and the shepherd's crook. And then the boat and the reminder of where he was born and the flag of Ireland. I'm going to put the story away, and you can begin to think about what work you might like to do in response to this story. There was the shamrock that helped Patrick teach about the Holy Trinity, the three in one and the one in three. Patrick was a shepherd who became a priest, which is another kind of shepherd. And the boat that helped Patrick travel. Not always in ways that he wanted to. And the time of the color purple that reminds us of God's presence. Welcome back. I wonder what you found for your work. I was thinking about Patrick and the travel that he did by boat. And I thought maybe we could make a paper boat. Maybe you've made one before. They end up looking a little bit like this. And paper boats, of course, don't float forever. So let's see. The first thing you do is take a piece of paper. Just a regular piece of office paper or foolscap will work. And fold it in half. And make a good crease. That's always a trick in our work with paper, is to make good creases. And then open it up and fold it in half going the other way. And then we're going to put that open edge towards you and fold the top corners down to that middle crease. So we make kind of a triangle on each side. And then fold that bottom opening up and make another crease there. Turn it over and fold that other edge up and make a good crease there. And then we take these corners and we kind of fold them around the corner. And again, make a good crease here. We fold one inside and one around the edge. And then, this is a little bit tricky, open it up and kind of squeeze it together so you make a square. And then you've kind of got like a duck bill. And you're going to fold that edge up to the other one and turn it over and fold that edge up again. And then same thing, you kind of open that middle piece up and make yourself another square. And then stick your fingers in here so that opens up, and then go to that top point and pull your pieces out. Kind of open that up, tuck in that piece. And there we go. There's a boat. We might not be able to sail very far on that one, but perhaps we remember. Patrick, every time we go traveling, I wonder, when you go traveling, if you remember to say a prayer for the people that already live wherever you're going, or notice or give thanks for the beauty and the wonder of that place that might be different than wherever you live. Perhaps like Avram and Sarai, you discover that God isn't just here or there, but all of God is everywhere. Lent is a little bit of a journey too. Jesus goes into the wilderness to find out more about who he is and what his work will be. And so too, we take this time, whether it's listening to a godly play story or being part of a community of faith at worship on a Sunday or during the week, or taking time in our own prayers and meditation, or to go for a walk outside, or to spend some time creating. And it helps us listen and be present to God. And when we do that, we do discover more about who Jesus calls us to be and what our work will be. So let's say thank you for all that goodness, for opportunities to travel to new places and to meet new people, to learn new things, to see God in other things, just as Patrick was able to see the holy in the shamrock. For this and so much more, we give you thanks, God. I'll invite you to take some time to say your prayers of gratitude. You can say them out loud or in silence. You might like to sing them. You might pass an object around your members of the household if you're worshiping together, or simply say Amen so they know it's their turn. And whenever you're ready, come on back and let's feast together. Welcome back. I wonder where your prayers took you. Sometimes when I pray, I go different places, or at least my mind and my spirit do. That's a good thing too. So my feast is pretty simple. Have a glass of water, which is such a simple thing for us who can just go to the tap and turn it on and have clean and fresh water. But if I had to walk down a Tibetan mountainside for 2 or 3 hours, carrying empty jugs and fill them at a creek, and then carry them back up that Tibetan mountainside, having a cool, refreshing drink of water is anything but simple. There are so many places in the world where it's either difficult to get access to water or the water isn't safe to drink. Even here in Canada, so many Indigenous communities that have boil water advisories or are restricted in their water use. So I am very grateful for a cool, refreshing, safe, clean glass of water. I wonder where you've traveled. If you've traveled different parts of the world. We were talking about that the other morning after our Bible study gathering. People didn't realize I'd been to Russia at one point. They're in the news a lot right now, and people aren't always very generous or gracious in their comments about people. But I think there are many people in Russia, just as there are in the Ukraine and in Canada and the United States and China, who are praying for a peaceable outcome. But it isn't easy. And it wasn't easy for Patrick going back to Ireland. And we heard a bit of that difficult history between England and Ireland, and boats going back and forth and stealing children and dogs and selling them into slavery. And we know that's happened in many places in the world. Sometimes even churches have justified it or made excuses or encouraged it. I don't think that's what Jesus discovered in the wilderness. I don't think he ever heard God say, "Go and make slaves of somebody else." Jesus found a way to talk to just about everybody, and often it was over a meal. Which is partly why our feasting time, I think, is so important. We're a little different when we're eating, you know? We're a little more relaxed, a little less formal maybe. Good food helps put us in a good mood. And that would be a very good thing if more people in the world were in a very good mood. I wonder what food you like to eat, or if you like to try new things, especially when you travel, or maybe just at home. I think I learned how to make guacamole this week. At least I watched somebody else make it while we were having a Zoom call. Now I have to try it out for myself. And then I tasted some cookies that were like somebody said they were a cake mix cookie. And they were so good. So I want to try that out too. There are so many things we don't know. But we do know that in this place, we are welcome. And we do know that God loves us. And that helps us navigate all the other unknowns. So wherever you go this week, I hope you remember to be excited about traveling someplace new or meeting somebody new or trying something new, whether that's food or a different activity. And trust that God is already there. And however it works out, even if it doesn't work out very well, God still loves you. Because God's love isn't earned or deserved. It isn't, we don't have to succeed at things in order for God to love us. Whew. Thank goodness, because you know it took a few tries for me to get this boat thing to work. But before we know it, it's time to say goodbye. So watch what happens when I change the light. Some people miss this part. It's just in this one place and time. But when we change the light, it will spread out and fill this room and find its way to wherever you are. Watch what happens. Ooh. There is a lot of light. And it is filling the space between us and enabling us to see the holy and wondrous love of God in each other. Until we meet again, God bless you. Be well and look after one another.